I wanted to ask you if if you had it to do over again, would you still buy the RV, or would you like get one of those little cottages, the little what do they call those? The little shed type deal that the Mennonites make.
It's interesting. I mean, you'd have to do. It kind of depends on the timing going in because again, when you get an RV, you get for free, but not. I mean, you get as part of it, you get plumbing and electrical and all those things, right? So if you decide, and so you'll be ready faster to live. But if you go in
Oops.
with the shed that you're gonna insulate and wire and put plumbing in, it's going to take a little longer to be ready to live. It depends on your circumstance.
But it's more energy efficient.
It would be, yes, there are benefits to doing it that way for sure. More energy efficient. But there are and one of the benefits actually is you'd get practice. If you're going to build your own house, you'd get practice on doing some electrical wiring, doing some. That's all nice. But if you want to roll onto your land and live in something that has electricity and water and everything day one, then the RV is the answer. So it just depends.
Would you do it over again the same way?
I said it. I just answered the question. Did you not listen to anything I just said?
I'm working with you.
It depends. If I want to live comfortably from the first day, I'd buy an RV. If I had a little time to prepare a cottage, then yeah, that's an interesting option. But they're different.
I think if we had it to do over again, of course, I wouldn't be the one doing all the work.
Yeah, it's easy to say that.
Probably. But I would prefer that we had come up on the weekends and put the little cottage together.
Interesting option.
What was it?
Yeah.
What was it that Nikki and Craig, they were going to buy? They almost bought one of those.
A shed.
They almost a shed, a little shed.
Tough shed. Yeah.
Tough shed.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's other names for them too, but you basically built the shed that you built.
Yeah, but it doesn't have power or water or anything.
It's the same thing. So technically, but you had no idea what you were doing. And it took you a long time to design that shed and build the shed.
When it's done, it would be a better option than this.
That's true.
And it would give you some experience of building, of insulating, of wiring, and of plumbing. That's all great. But how long would it take to get all those things done?
So you would have to suffer some discomfort.
Now, if we did that while we were still trying to sell our house and we were coming down here on the weekends and stuff, that'd be a great option. So yes, that'd be absolutely one way to go. But, it doesn't work for everybody. It just depends.
And that takes time. So
yes.
It's kind of like the old saying, 6 dozen or half dozen of one and a 6 of the other.
6 dozen of one, half of the other.
What is that saying?
Phrase.
You know what that saying is. Is it 6 of one and half dozen of the other?
Yes. Because,
that's right? Okay.
See, it's funny because they're the same thing.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there's not a simple answer to that question. Just like every other question you love to ask, there's not a simple answer.
What question do I love to ask?
Every
When's
question
the house
you
going to
ask
be done?
Doesn't have a simple answer. It depends.
When is the house going to be done?
Never.
Now they have him on the spot. He's on the spot right now.
What do you want?
You're on the spot. What else would you do different? Would you try to get what about the solar? Would you have done that 6-panel thing, or would you have tried to figure out, because we have how many panels? 9 sitting over there that are not being used right now.
I would have tried to, and again, some of this you're just never going to figure out. You don't know day one. We didn't know day one where our house was going to go. But if you put a whole lot more thought and you had a little more time maybe, but I mean, we didn't know the same things back then. It took 3 years, which is why it's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's easy to say
it's
in
taken
hindsight.
This much time. Yes, in hindsight. If I knew, what I would say is, if you knew exactly where your house was going to go, then I would build the solar system where it needs to be and and put the trailer very close to that spot where the house goes or whatever, because, you know, the idea of building a small one first. I don't mind that we built a small one first, but I probably wouldn't have built it so far away from the ultimate location. But we didn't know where the ultimate location would be.
That's right. It took us
For a
long
long time, I thought the house was going to sit right here where the trailer is, but it's not.
Well,
So,
when you're making a decision on where a house is going to go, that is an important decision.
yes.
Because you're going to be there. I mean, once it's done, you're stuck there.
And until we were here for quite a while, you know, we didn't think about things like, oh, if I put the panels here, they're going to be blocked by this hillside or whatever, you know, or, you know, so there's a lot of things to think about. Now, if you can so the answer to a lot of these questions is spend a lot more time beforehand thinking about it. But unfortunately, there's some things you're just not going to think about until you live here, which is why I was always okay with living here for a while, because you learn while you're here things that you can't possibly learn if you're not here.
Yes. And
So-
you know what I wish, because of the RV is so energy inefficient,
Yeah.
is if we had built a cover first.
I was going to say, the one thing I would do, the no-brainer do differently, if I were going to do an RV, which there's nothing wrong with an RV necessarily, absolutely I would have put a cover over it. I did not realize how important a cover over the RV would be, a shade.
Right.
If there were a shade over this thing, it would be night and day difference, I think.
And we actually did try. I mean, you did try to remember that. I don't remember what the name of that company was that you really tried to work
I
with.
researched metal
that
buildings
metal
and,
company, and they didn't even get back to you. And it's like they just
the problem
they
with the
didn't
RV
want your
shade
money.
is, I know you can. Yeah, they weren't very good.
They were not good.
Well, they don't care. They want to sell to someone who's going to spend a lot more money than we're going to spend. So.
Right. So they just
So
said,
the problem, you could look at the fact that I've built now the carport and say, why didn't you just build a carport that goes over the shed? Well, that carport is only about 7 or 8 feet tall. This thing needs to be like 14 feet tall.
yeah, and then that's a lot.
That sounds like, well, so what? 6 or 7 feet difference. Well, that's a big difference. Now you need a post that out here is a 10-foot post. It's 2 feet in the ground and it's 8 feet above ground. That post for this thing needs to be 16 feet long or something. So that it's not as simple as it sounds.
I know. Well, for that, I would
So-
say you would probably need to hire a professional. I don't
would
know.
probably
And
find
we
a
would have had
company
to.
that will either build for me or make a kit for an RV, so a pole structure or whatever. And again, I would have done it before we ever even came here. I would have put it up first, and I would have parked the RV under it. Problem with that is, just like everything else, when you buy your land, and if the first thing you want to do is build the RV cover on it, well, you might make a mistake in where you place that RV. Because
Right.
until you live here for 6 months, you go, whoops, we should have been over here. So, I mean, it's all, in hindsight, sure, there's a lot of things, but you're never going to get all that stuff right the first time. So you just do what you do and you figure it out. But yes, this RV should have had a shade over it, and it would have been way better if it did.
Also, it's a lot of physical work, so you really need to get in pretty good shape before you tackle some of these things. As we have learned. And we're only 50 years old. You're not 50, but you're getting close. Only 4 more years. 4 more years. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up now. What? Are you yawning?
Yep.
Did you sleep good last night?
Nope.
I slept pretty good. All right, I'm going off topic here. I sleep pretty good here, though. If I exercise. All right. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
I love you.
Thanks.
You love me, you know it. Admit it. Okay. You better admit it, or people will think you don't
Oh, I
love me.
thought you stopped. You didn't stop yet?
No, I'm still going.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
He loves me. He just won't admit it. You love me.